Hello, thank you for joining me in the third card in our Meant to Be series. This is the card that we're going to make. As I said to you last week, it does use a lot of designer series paper, but that's good because you don't want to stash it, you want to use it. And it's going to open up like that. Okay, so the tutorial will be up. I haven't got it up yet, but it will go up really shortly. And to make this card, you're going to start with your piece of DSP, and we're going to score that at 5.1 centimeters. .2 20.4 and 25.4. Now, if you're working in inches, it's easy. It's just 2, 4, 8, and 10 inches. And so, important if paper's directional to pay attention to which direction things are facing in. So we're marking up from the bottom 4 centimeters or 1¼ inches. Just hoping that I'm going to be able to see my mark. And we're doing that. Yep, okay, that one is in the right place. I thought I'd shifted it on both sides. Okay. Now, I'm just going to fold on that second score line so that it's easier to see. And we're cutting from that score line to my mark. Okay, so inside score line to the mark, cut, and the same on the other side. If I can see where my score lines are. And that is the hardest part of our card done. Sorry, not that. Hope that didn't make you seasick. Now, the important thing is that if your paper is directional, your piece that's directional has to fold to the inside. And I'm just going to fold this one to the outside, and I'll show you exactly why. So if I wanted it going that way so that my honey jars are on the front, it's going to cause me a problem because I would be putting that piece fitting on and then those jars are upside down. Okay, so that's the catch with directional paper, is that your, I'm going to say pretty picture because that's probably the one that you really like, has to go to the inside. So we are going to cover a lot of that up when we put our insert in, but unfortunately that's just the way this design works. It cannot work any other way without, or rather with your designer series paper, with your directional designer series paper. Okay, so now we're going to find a glue that wants to come out. And I'm just going to glue that onto each side of my card over here. So lining up my bottom, my two bottom edges and that score line. And get that very straight. Goodness, not normally that difficult. Alright, so we've got one over there and then my other piece. Is coming in over here. And those should be lining up quite nicely if I've scored and folded straight. There we go. Now I have my insert, and this is where I said to you, rather unfortunate, but the insert is now covering up a lot of my pretty inside paper, but that's okay because it means that my honey jars are standing up the right way. And let's do some stamping. So you can use whichever bead you like. I'm using the bigger one over here, and I'm going to stamp its body. That's in Daffodil Delight. And then we need some stripes in Memento. Not quite lined up, but that's alright, not too bad. Wings I'm going to stamp in Old Olive, just because everything else here is Old Olive. I was just checking what I did there, and yes, I did stamp that off because I kind of like the wings to be a little bit paler, because then it looks like they're a bit gauzy while they're flapping around. And I've just realized that I was so busy thinking about what I'm bringing, I didn't bring the stamps for the little bee trail. So stamp that as well. And I was losing the face, but I just found it. This time I'm going to use this little face with the two kind of blinking eyes. And I mean blinking in the nicest possible sense. I'll go and I'll stamp my... Oh. Okay, I'm not going to stick this into my card because I now need to re-stamp it on the other side, but you don't want to watch me redoing that, so that would stick onto the inside with your little bee trails trailing along. And then for the sentiment this time, I'm using the Bright Borders stamp set, and there's a matching punch, and I'm really happy that that stamp set is actually carrying over. In the mini catalogue, that stamp set did go, or rather the bundle was a different stamp set to that one, but the punch and that stamp set is carried over, and like I say, I'm very happy about that because I actually preferred that stamp set to the one that was part of the bundle. So sweet sentiment from me to you, and we're going to punch that out, but let me grab the right punch, that would be helpful. So annoying when I think that I've checked and double checked everything, and then there's always something that I've forgotten, but I suppose that wouldn't be me if I didn't forget something. We know how it goes, there always has to be something that goes hiding from me. Alright, okay, I didn't stick that very well either, that should have been right against the side. Okay, I'm going to hide it with my sentiment, so we're just going, now with this, because I want to make sure that I don't go over over the edges, I don't want it to stick on the other side. I prefer to put the dimensionals down on the DSP rather than putting them onto the sentiment and then finding that I've stuck them in the wrong place. So we're just going to put that roughly there. That'll work well. And of course you would have your unsmudged piece with your bee trails on the inside. Okay, so easy as that. There's our card. There's one that's fully stamped. And of course you don't have to use this designer series paper. You can use any paper. This works really well with that. So give it a go. I will put the tutorial up with all the measurements, and I will be back probably tomorrow with our last card for this series. And I've actually managed to get ahead of myself this time, and I have the cards that we're going to be doing for May, so those are already made, so I'll show you what we're doing with those tomorrow as well. Have a good night, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.